Hey folks, David Stewart here. I hope you guys are having a great day. It is Saturday, March 4th, 2023. What an interesting day and date. Every time the numbers get higher past 2000, it's a little weird for us older guys because so much of our time was spent looking forward to the year 2000. When we were growing up, like in the 80s and 90s, the year 2000 was this amazing, in the future, in the year 2000. And I remember it became a joke on the Conan O'Brien show some years ago because the show went past the year 2000. So they would have this like future thing where they would go, in the year 2000. In the year 2000, all these things will happen. And I remember like my middle school English teacher, I think, had this thing that's like, in the year 2000, all of these things, right? And it was really funny because we're like, 2000 is really not that far away now. And, before we knew it, like 2000 was just here. And we went past it. We blew past it. And now we're 23 years past the year 2000. Some of you watching right now probably weren't even born in the year 2000, but it was this weird thing. We're going to party like it's 1999. It's like 1999 was not that big of a party. But it's like, what did that mean? Well, everyone thinks the world's going to end in the year 2000 for whatever reason. It's just a big round number. So it was an interesting thing. Whenever I see like 2023, I'm like, whoa. I wonder if people born in 1880 or 1890, like J.R.R. Tolkien, were like, oh, it feels so weird that it's 1920. But anyway, yeah, I can't think of any other year besides 2000 where people were looking forward to it so much. They're like, year 2000. Yeah, I'm waiting for 2020 to end. We're on 2020 part 3. And each sequel is worse than the last. Each sequel is worse than the last. All right. So while people are getting in here, while people are getting in here, I want to talk a little bit about the 2-hour book. This is not a new format, rather this is my take on a rather old format. That is a book which is designed to be read in about 2 hours, about the time it takes to watch a movie. And why I chose to master this format a couple of years ago. Now, before I go any further, I do have a new book. You can get it for free by joining my mailing list. And so I will give you a link to that. So you can hop on the mailing list and get it for free. It's called Demon X Machina. If you are already on the mailing list, check your email because you probably got a link to a free download of that. But just in case, I will give that free download a link as well. This is one of those 2-hour books, which I'm going to talk about right now. So 2-hour book is just a short book, a book in the range of, say, 20,000 words to maybe 40,000 on the upper end. Once you get past 40,000, and I do routinely put out books more than 40,000 words. Al Shafalda was one. That one was like 60,000 or something, which I still consider a middling novel. I've also done much longer books in the 120,000 range. Once you get past 40,000, people are looking at having to read it in more than one sitting. So this was a format that was really popular in the pulp era, in the first half of the 20th century. But a lot of the magazines that would publish these shorter books, these novellas or long novellas maybe, have gone out of business, at least in the United States. Now, someone on Twitter informed me that this is actually still a really popular format in Germany, and you can get magazines that'll just have one of these 2-hour books in it for your commute or for some daily entertainment on the newsstand. And I think that's great, but in the United States we lost that, and that's because the magazines slowly died. They got taken over. You can read a book by J.D. Cowan called The Last Fanatics, which is very informative on this, but they got kind of taken over by fans, and in that process the content of these stories changed from more complete adventures like you would get with an H.P. Lovecraft story, one of his 7 or 8 chapter books, like At the Mountains of Madness, books like that were in the 20 to 30,000 word range. Those kind of started to disappear from the magazines. There's definitely usually an emphasis in magazines, at least over here, in the 5 to 10,000 range, which is a short story. There really is a short story versus a more complete short book. So they disappeared. A little bit of a forgotten format, but I really love those old Robert E. Howard long stories, and I love the longer stories from H.P. Lovecraft. Those are two of my favorite authors, and I think they did such a great job with the format. I decided I was going to master it because I think people are really busy. I think they've gotten busier, and our life has gotten more jammed with distractions over the past 30 years. So having a book that people can sit and read and is really entertaining for a limited stretch of time was very appealing to me. I felt like I could get more people to read a short book than a long book. There's less commitment. They don't have to spend as much time on it. They can read it in a night and enjoy it and throw up a couple stars on Amazon or whatever. So it was a format that appealed to me because I think customers would like it more. And my anecdotal experience compared to my other books is that in general, that is the case. People are generally a lot more willing to give a shorter book a chance because they know that it's not a deep time commitment to get to the end of that story. So my shorter books generally sell better than my longer books. And that's been the case regardless of genre, whether you're looking at something like horror or you're looking at something like science fiction or fantasy. The shorter books tend to do a little bit better than the longer books as far as total sales. That's not necessarily total earnings, but total sales. So I first dipped my toes in this format sort of with the publication of a free book just to have another book on Amazon. It was called Garamesh and the Farmer. It's actually a fairy tale for children. It's not really one of these more adult books that I guess people know me better for, like Eyes in the Walls. It's a fairy tale, but it was about 12 or 13,000 words, and I even published it as a little paperback. I've seemed to have misplaced most of my back catalog of books, my physical books that I have. I may need to order some more. But anyway, so there's that one. And boy, people were really willing to read that one. I found, I was like, oh, that's good. Later, when I did Needle Ash was originally written as one book. And the goal was to write and publish the book in 1 month. I ended up writing a little bit longer story than I originally intended. That's these books right here. Now, you can technically still get the paperbacks of these books if you want, but the ebooks and everything and on all my focus is on the unified novel. So you'll find a complete edition that is one large book, all of these put into one large book. That's really the one that I want people to read. But with that, people were way more willing to read the first book, which was about 30,000 words, versus reading the entire 110,000 word book. That's just how it was. Now, if they read this, maybe they'll read the second one. Maybe they'll read the third one and get the whole story. So the idea here is like it's a serial. Like we'll hook you with the first one. You get a pause point. You get another resolution, and then you get the full resolution of the story at the end of the third book. So that was my idea. Is I took one larger book and split it into 3 of these 2-hour books. And it did really well. And I may actually bring back the ebook versions of these. I unpublished them because I really wanted people to just, this is Eternal Dream Part 2. All of this is Eternal Dream Part 2. So it's a little confusing for the series numbering because I'm going to come up with Part 3 this year, which is another longer book. It'd be a little bit confusing for people to be like, wait, all of this is Part 2? I don't understand the continuity here. But I just wanted to try that out, and it was pretty successful. Now, I did some of the same thing going forward there. Around the birth of my daughter in 2019, I decided I really wanted to master this format in its own right, rather than just look at it as a sales device. So I came out with this book right here, which was called Crown of Sight, and this is about 21,000 words. How many pages? About 100 pages, I think, is how it runs. 80 pages. So it's an 80-page book. Pretty easy to read an 80-page book, guys. So this came out right before my daughter was born. I had it all set up. It wasn't quite as popular as some of my other stuff, and I think it was just I didn't market it as heavily. I didn't have a bunch of content telling people about the book, and it's just a different kind of story. It's a more even though it's only 21,000 words, it's like a pretty cerebral story for a lot of what's going on there. And the concept here was, I had read like Words of Radiance, and I felt like Words of Radiance was about 80% unnecessary to the story. So 80% filler, that's way too much for a book. I'm like, what if I just took the last act of a fantasy story and that's the book? And so that's what I did. It's just the final battle, basically. It's like a siege at the end. and I'm able to introduce all the concepts and resolve them in that short amount of space because I'm not spending a bunch of time building up the conflict. The conflict's already there. You're there. The armies are fighting. You don't have to worry about any kind of political buildup or long time spent with characters. Allow me to cut a lot of characters and just keep it down to like the bare minimum, the ones that really mattered. And so that was a foray, and I enjoyed that. And I thought I'd follow it up later. I don't have a copy of it with one of my more popular books called Voices of the Void. Voices of the Void was another experimental book, and I'll go ahead and link some of these as I'm talking about them. But Voices of the Void was another one of these experimental books where I had no chapters and no scene breaks whatsoever in the book at all. It was a completely one scene book, beginning to end. Not only no chapter breaks, no scene breaks, no break from the momentary action of what's happening one moment to the next, no time skips whatsoever. And so I did that, and that one was very popular, and I marketed it. I kind of sold it as Aliens meets Lovecraft, right? There's like a Lovecraftian eldritch horror that's controlling people, causing them to go insane. There's a lot of horror. You're going deep into like this underground pit, which reminded me of the movie Aliens. So that's kind of how I sold it, and people really attached it. Oh, that sounds like a really fun story. They were able to read it in 2 hours or less, which gave a really satisfying ending to everything. It was action-packed, it was full of conflict, and it was full of, in fact, like lore for the world as well. So that one was a big hit, and I've noticed over time that like my horror books tend to do better than my fantasy books. I don't know if that's horror has a broader appeal to people, or it's just my style tends to fit that more tense and frightening kind of genre. But anyway, that one was pretty successful, and people generally liked that one as well. Another one I did, I think at the end of that year, I did this one, which was, I think it was at the end of 2019. I did City of Silver. So City of Silver is the first Moonsong book, and my goal with this one was to cut it down as small as possible. All the follow-up books are quite a bit longer. They're in the 60,000 word range, right? They're bigger. So the follow-up books are all like 200 pages, 250 pages. This one is like really, it's 120 pages. Okay, so it's like, I think I cut it down to 30,000 words, maybe 25,000 words. I don't remember the exact length, but here it is. People like the cover. It's a stock photo cover, guys. It's like, it's a stock photo cover, but it's appealing. It has like an appealing flavor to it. People want to, find the mystery of the cover. But this got people hooked on the series. So the series, the first book is really easy to put your toes into. It's not a big commitment to read. You can read it in a night. And then, the follow-up books maybe take a little bit longer to read, but then you're committed to the characters. You like the characters, you like the setting, and you want to see how things resolve in the third book. So, City of Silver. So in this one, I didn't do it for the whole series. I just did it for the first book because I know that readers are more willing to read a 2-hour book, and they enjoyed that experience. And then the follow-ups are a little bit longer. I think I also came out with this one in 2019, which is Eyes in the Walls. So I should probably link some of these, I guess, as I'm talking about them. So Eyes in the Walls. In fact, I think I have them in order here. Yeah, Eyes in the Walls. I put out Moonsong, I think, in October, and I did this in December. So a little bit more than a month later, I put out Eyes in the Walls. And this was another popular horror tale. So you can check that one out if you want to. This one I wrote after I came up with the idea on a Halloween stream, wrote it in November, published it early in December. Pretty straightforward how I did this one. It was like National Novel Writing Month book, but I actually did a lot more stuff that month besides this one. But again, this one's over 30,000 words. It's 120 pages maybe. This one is about a kid who sees a monster in the basement, in the morgue at the funeral home where his mother works, and all the sort of things that come out of that. Is it real? Is it not real? Is he schizophrenic, or is he not? All of the solutions come in a twist ending that people really enjoyed. So if you haven't read this one and you want to be in on the twist ending, you got to pick it up. This is one that you can read, again, in one night, in the time it would take to watch a horror movie, and you get a complete story with plot, characters, and setting, all the stuff that you would want. In fact, I should link City of Silver too while I'm talking about it, because that one was also, again, people enjoyed that one. I did more of these, so I think this was 2021. 2021. Wasting Desert. This is a side story, kind of like Crown of Sight, to my Eternal Dream saga, I guess, my fantasy world. This one is a straight up horror fantasy, where you're like being attacked by ghosts and monsters in a supernatural desert. Again, I wanted to really nail the format, and I think that this one's only like 75 pages. So it's short and sweet, and it gets through the entire thing. It feels like, to me, I really wanted to have what felt like a Robert E. Howard novella, and that's what I did with this. And so those characters, I had another idea. I was like, okay, we're gonna have like 5 of those adventures, and that will make like a complete book experience here. It'd be kind of like Michael Moorcock with the Elric stuff, is that when you pick up the book, it's really like 4 little books inside of one of those big books. Like if you read something like what is it, The Weird of the White Wolf? Maybe that one. That one has like 4 stories. Or Sailor on the Seas of Fate. Both of those have like 4 Elric novellas in it. So I was like, oh, I'll do one of those, and then I can do like 3 or 4 more, and then boom, we have like another bigger complete book as well. So that one was called The Wasting Desert, and again, sometimes these things really hit, sometimes they don't. This one's been okay as far as sales go. It's not everybody's cup of tea, I think, because of all the fantasy lore and stuff that's inside of it. But overall, I think it was a good effort. I'm going to link another one that I actually did not publish here, and that is Pulp Rock. That is an anthology. So I have another book in Pulp Rock. It's called Farewell to Once and Future Kings. It's a sci-fi story about musicians who are spies in space. Quite a lot of fun. It has an AI character called Drummerbot, and he's a lot of fun in that story as well. But you'll have to buy the entire collection, which I do recommend. It's got a lot of fun stories in it. It's called Pulp Rock, and so you can check that one out as well. And so this new one, which is called Demon Ex Machina, is another one of these, I guess, 2-hour books. I originally wanted to release it in February, but I kind of ran out of time to do the editing. Went on a little bit of a vacation, and I had to come back and do all of the editing work, I guess, at the last minute. So you could pre-order it. Technically, it comes out next week, and the paperback you can buy right now, but it's a pre-release paperback. I put it up for me to get a personal copy, so I would actually wait on the paperback if you want to buy it. You could buy it now, but there might be like a couple of changes to the final thing before next week, before I do it. Let me also very quickly find I'll just find the email link here for this. So I will give you the book funnel link for the free giveaway of Demon Ex Machina, and you guys can join my list and download that and grab it. Okay, here it is. So hop on the mailing list, you get a free copy of the new book. People seem to like it already. It is about AI art, has a demon in it. Maybe it's a mystery. This one is very reminiscent of H.P. Lovecraft, not so much in the mythos. I noticed something that people do when they do Lovecraftian things is they just use his approach to cosmic horror and the mythos, like of old gods and like things beyond our comprehension that are horrible to behold, and Cthulhu. They have Cthulhu everywhere, and they don't copy his style at all. This is more in the style of H.P. Lovecraft. That is the way that he tells stories in a first-person perspective with like an academic character trying to uncover a mystery about something that is beyond human kin and doesn't make sense in the logical world. So it's more a take on his style than it is on any of his mythos. And I notice almost nobody does that. People people like the mythos, and then they do things that are really unlike H.P. Lovecraft with that, rather than looking at why those stories were successful. And I think a big part of it is his style, his approach to writing. So it's anyway. There's a bunch of those books. I may have forgotten some along the way. I might have forgotten a few that I've put out. Somewhere. I put out a couple on Kindle Vela, but those will be going to like regular platforms this year, and I'll keep you appraised of that if you're on the mailing list, dvspress.com/list. And then you can, of course, or you can just grab that new book and get on the list, and you'll have the book. So this format, I think it's a really good format. I think it's good for modern readers because there's not a lot of time commitment. It also allows you as a creative person to put out more stories and just have more productive output, which is good. Rather than putting out maybe 1 or 2 really long books per year, you can put out like 3 or 4 shorter books per year and just have a lot more exposure, get a lot more feedback, figure out what the market likes a lot more. I find that the market really likes horror. So the next one that I'll put out is going to be a fantasy horror book, and I already have it. I just have to take it off Vela and put it out. No one really read stuff on Kindle Vela, but Amazon gives me money for having stories on it, so I'll probably always be putting a story on it, at least temporarily, before I do other stuff. So next one will be, and then I have another horror book coming this year. I have a full-length, larger book that I'll deal with later. Sometimes you see the cover of it, King Leper. That is an Eternal Dream book. It should be pretty interesting when I am finally ready to put it out. So anyway, guys, that's the 2-hour novel. Let's check out the chat before we hop into games, and enjoy those books, and check out the format. Short fiction seems to be a little bit lost because publishers focus on these big door-stopper fantasy novels, but I really like things that are more like, Fritz Leiber and Robert E. Howard for fantasy, stuff that's really to the point and punchy. Otherwise, I like Tolkien, stuff that's really deep and aesthetic, rather than these long dramas, which is what's very popular now. Speaking of schizophrenic, the movie The Messenger turned Joan of Arc's story into a psychological thriller. Have you seen the film? Nope. I don't watch movies very much anymore, and there's a lot of reasons for that. I don't go to the cinema, and I really don't have time to go to the cinema and to leave my kids either in the care of my wife or a babysitter if I want to take my wife to a show. If we're going to the cinema with my kids, it's going to be a kids movie. And if I'm going with my wife, I'm not going to be able to see any cool movies, guys. She's not into that kind of stuff. She's into just normie stuff. So maybe like Avatar we would go see, or something, or a Marvel movie. But chances are my wife would not want to see a Joan of Arc movie, and she probably wouldn't want to watch it with me on the TV either. So it's something I would have to find 2 hours to watch by myself. And if I'm going to do that, it's not that I would never do it. It's just I'm only going to do it if I'm really interested in seeing the movie and maybe doing an analysis or doing content on it. So I haven't seen it. Now, I will say this. This is something that movie makers have done for a while, is to make somebody's contact with God into a madness rather than it being real. You saw this with, what was the one that Ridley Scott did it was the Exodus story. It's called like Exodus Gods and Kings or something. And in it, like Moses, who's I think played by Christian Bale, like hits his head and hallucinates a burning bush. That is a modernist take to try to explain these stories. Like maybe somebody experienced this because they were on mushrooms or something. And it's like, no. Like the saints and the prophets had contact with God. Like they talked to God. That's very clear in the Bible. And that's what made them prophets, is that they had they had that access to God and God's plan. So that kind of anti-religious approach to religion is very modernist and very silly. It's like you can't take your subject seriously if you're not taking it seriously. You're trying to make a materialistic, agnostic movie on a Bible story. Why bother? Make a new story, okay? Tell a story about Khufu or someone building the Great Pyramid. Excuse me. Oh, sorry for that. Messengers from 1999. Okay. Still haven't seen it. But my analysis still holds, which is that this is a modernist thing, is to make messages from gods into things that aren't real. Nobody takes the religion seriously because they themselves are an atheist Jew, and so they don't really view any of the stories in the Bible as literal. They don't view any of the religious practices of the other peoples as serious or involving actual spirits or deities. They think it's all mumbo jumbo. They're philosophically Jewish, where they study their the Torah is not taken all that seriously, right? It's the Talmud. The Talmud is like the teachings, and that's what matters more than burning bushes in the Torah or something like that. So that's a really common perspective in Hollywood, is somebody who's ethnically Jewish, but is really just agnostic and maybe philosophically Talmudic, but They consider it all a bunch of mumbo jumbo, and they don't ever want to portray those things as real. What I would love is somebody, if they were going to tell a real tale of Rome, that like the gods are really present and religion's really serious and the gods actually matter. Like to tell a legitimate telling of the Odyssey or the Iliad where the gods are fully present in the story. It's like no one has the courage to do this because they think that everybody wants to see a materialist, complete atheistic approach to storytelling on screen. And if you're viewing it as a fantasy movie like Marvel, why not have gods? Why not have the gods, even if you think they're not real? Why not have them? Because they're a fantastical and fun story device. Use the gods. Have the gods be real. You know what I'm saying? I wrote a biopic about Joan of Arc that tried to delve into the significance of the survival of France in God's plan. That's interesting. Mark Twain wrote a Joan of Arc book, and I don't think I really liked it. It's been so long. He thought it was his best book, but I think maybe not. Seriously, though, an actual question for the character to ask himself would be, is this God or is the devil trying to trick me? This, the saints deal with that too. I think it was St. Anthony that said, the way you can tell is, think of the angels went to Mary and they just took away her fear. When they say be not afraid, it's like, boom, you're not afraid. If you feel fear in the presence of an angel, like you're terrified of it, then it's a demon. It's St. Anthony via St. Athanasius said this, and you can look it up. It's The Life of St. Anthony by Athanasius. So go ahead and look that up. This is directives that we have from the Desert Fathers, people who engage in actual spiritual warfare. How do you discern whether it's a demon or it's God? Because demons deceive us. They believe demons would deceive people. They could tell you about natural disasters that were going to happen, because like if a flood's happening, the demon, unbounded by physical space, could see the flood coming down, like the Nile flood coming down the valley, can move hundreds of miles instantly, and then give you a prophecy about that as if it's divine, when it's really just the fact that they're not bounded by space because they don't have bodies. So that was one of the things, is like if your fear is taken away, then it's an angel. But even Paul said this. If even an angel were to come and preach to you a gospel other than what we have preached to you, you should reject it. And if someone's preaching another gospel, let them be accursed. Let them be anathema. All that stuff matters. And I'm talking as a Christian here, but for fellow Christians, it's something to consider. Is like, well, how do I know if it's an angel? What if I do have this experience? Is like, well, the saints have given us lots of directives going all the way back to Paul about what is and what is not going to be prophecy from the Holy Spirit and things like that, and actual divine intervention of angels and whoever else. So you can look at those directives and think for yourself, like, how do I answer that question? Luckily, we have 2,000 years worth of saints to help us answer that question. How can you be an agnostic Jew and not an agnostic Christian or Muslim? It's because Judaism is an ethnic identity as well as a religion, and there's a philosophical part to that too, which is the Talmud. And if you spend time reading the Talmud, you can see that lots of people might view it as it's to be like someone saying I'm philosophically Christian, but I don't actually believe in the divinity of Christ. That's a weird thing to say, but I've met people who say that. So I've just met a lot of Jews who are in that camp. They identify as Jews. They go to synagogue, but they don't believe the stories in the Bible. Like they might believe in God in a rough sense. Like there's a rough God out there, but they don't think the Bible is true. They think the Talmud is communicating more of the wisdom, if anything. So just food for thought. The Hollywood's full of these people. I've met them, you can listen to them talk. They're people like Harrison Ford, it's a really common modern perspective. It's like you hold on to like this part of your ethnic identity that includes a religion, but you don't really believe in the religion. Whereas with Christians, if you don't believe in the religion, the tendency is to just apostatize. You just leave the church and stop going, right? You stop dealing with that. Although there are Christians I've met who will still go to Mass on Christmas and Easter, and they don't really believe it. But, it's a family time, or like they go with their family. It's part of like the whole package, and they're not really faithful. This is also why I don't take the whole like decreasing Christianity things too seriously. You see, the graph goes down as far as people attending church. Well, in the past, people may have not really believed very strongly and attended church anyway because it's a social function. And once church is no longer a community social function, then you have the option to not go, and lots of people are going to take that option. They're just not going to see it as like something that gives them benefit. They don't believe that much, or they believe very roughly. They don't really see the point in Mass. Mass is not something they feel like they're compelled to do, or they are really receiving the body and blood of Christ, or something like that, or whatever whatever your denomination happens to believe about the purpose of your Sunday service. People just kind of choose to not do it, and that's up to them. I've had my own demonic-like encounters with shadow people. The feeling of sheer terror is real. Yeah, a lot of people have. This is why when someone says, I took mushrooms and I met these crazy shadow people and these beings, and I'm like, these are called demons. If somebody were with it enough to take mushrooms and be able to like invoke the name of Christ and make the sign of the cross and have them disappear, then you would probably know that they're demons. Most people are not. Most people who are really faithful and could pray are not taking psychedelics because they're aware of the dangers of psychedelics, the spiritual dangers of psychedelics, or really any drug. Drink not to enlightenment. Instead, fill yourselves with the Holy Spirit. Yes, as a lawyer, I find it all very lawyerly. It's like, I think the people have said, why are so many lawyers Jews? And the answer is, read the Talmud and it'll make sense, because it's a lot of legal argumentation. And so if you grow up with that, and especially if you're like your father's a rabbi or something, and you grow up surrounded by these legal discussions, either as part of sections of the Talmud or just as part of your normal discourse with your family and with your peer groups and your community, then the law is actually a really fitting career. Like, it makes a lot of sense. It's very appealing. It's like, this is something I'm naturally interested in and naturally good at, and I have a deep background that will help me in that. So I think if you're raised in that environment and thinking that way, then you can be a pretty good lawyer. And the other one is that you notice is like there's all these Catholic judges. Why are there so many Catholics? As Catholics have, a similar approach, I guess, to not to legal. I want to say that Catholics are legalistic. That's not the point. But thinking about these debates in a legalistic thing, because as you learn the history of the church, there's so many different debates about what is and is not, what should and shouldn't be. Theology is like one long debate happening for thousands of years. If you're really into that, then it's really easy to be like, well, the law really appeals to me too. Those sort of argumentations and finding those fine divisions between things. It's something that can be really part of your nature if you grow up in that. Do you have a favorite book in the Bible? Probably Ecclesiastes. Is there so much wisdom in it? Probably Ecclesiastes. Trying to think of others. And John, Gospel of John, very personal, like look at who Christ was You get to see a lot of his, like, his full natures in John. So that's probably my favorite gospel. Also, maybe I think Judges is very interesting. It's a lot of really interesting stories that are complex and strange. And so I love to read it from time to time. Not just Samson. Samson's one of the best characters in the Bible. One of the best stories to read about a person of God and all the conflicts that go with that. But also Judges just has a lot of really deep and interesting stuff. You know, there was no king over Israel in that time, and everybody did what was right in his own eyes. Before 9/11, I was able to order spores on the internet and inoculate mushrooms in my house. Super easy. I didn't even think of that. Yeah, I know several people who grew magic mushrooms. You know, so like it's not that hard to grow them. You just need like some kind of food for them to eat. It could just be poop, but most people grow it in like, you know, you can grow it in rubbish or like damp. You know, grind up the leaves into mulch and you can grow mushrooms in that. That's a good way to grow it. So anyway, let's play some games. After that long discussion. Yeah, anyway, the point is like Hollywood tends to look at everything in a really secular way and not take religion seriously. I think even a book like a movie like 13th Warrior, which has this religious stuff in it. Ultimately, it's not like a supernatural monster, right? It's these crazy people. There's elements of that in there, but they're not, you know, you're still looking for like a material answer to the divine. And I think it'd be really hard to make a movie in Hollywood that is not explicitly doing that. Of course, there was Prince of Egypt, the animated movie, which was really good. That was a really good first part of Exodus. You know, first part of the book of Exodus. Human environment and darkness. I mean, you don't even really need darkness. It's more like the darkness will keep the plants from growing, which will keep the fungus. You know, I have fungus that grows in full sunlight around here. It's just in damp areas. But they grow better in the shade because there's not plants choking them out. They're not plants, obviously. Let's see. Where is it? There it is. I always got to do like a weird little thing to get the Vita to show up as an input device. Sounds kind of weird, you know. All right, here's the cloud. All right, let's see if we're back here. All right, I think we're back. Okay, good. Yeah, I got an encoder error on OBS for some reason. I don't know why. But it like made my whole primary display like do a fart for a minute. I'm not sure where I go next. I think I need to go back to the bridge. I went here to save. We'll go back up to the bridge and then we can fly somewhere. Did we get all the... I think we got all the giant materia. Shouldn't we ought to be back at Junon? I know how tough it is being a leader because I've been one. I always forget who has what materia. Oh, that's a good... Yeah. Nail bat. All right. Equip. The nail bat is really good, I guess. What accessory do we want here? Power wrist. Protects against all abnormal statuses. Oh yeah, all the materia, it's gone. So we should probably fix that. Could always use more ribbons. Poison ring, that's cool. Vitality. Alright, whatever. That'll work. Yeah, no crown. Alright. Let's do all and something good here. Transform, no. All and not gravity. What do I have here? Where does all the materia go? It's all my other guys, huh? Yeah, all my materia's missing, right? I gotta go back over to that other guy. Or I guess we could probably just land and sort it out there. Alright. We'll go to Junon now. Let's find out. You can see the meteor up there, which is cool. Falling down. We did Fort Condor again. Where's this place? It's over here, isn't it? That's Fort Condor. We did that one. Is Junon down here? No, we were just... I don't remember where this goes. I don't think we can go in there yet. But here's Junon. Yeah. No? There it is. Alright. I'm gonna check something real quick here. I wanted to look up see if there's any side quests, and it looks like I can go back to Nibelheim and play the piano and unlock a. Oh nope. Nibelheim. Where is Nibelheim? Is this it? No. This is that other one. Nibelheim is where? Where is Nibelheim? Is it on the other continent? Yeah, I just have to look up a map. There it is. Oh, it is. Let's forget that. There it is. How about all that estimated waste? Funko Pop waste. Oh yeah, I saw that. And we're gonna bury a bunch in a landfill because they can't sell them. I mean, that makes me. I mean, it makes me happy in one way because it's like people aren't spending their money on complete garbage. You know, what are we gonna do with like people's stuff when they're 70? I had that Mad Uncle Marty story. How did this go? Start button to finish. Start button. End. All right, let me see if I can do this here. Play the following tune. Oh. Try it again. I don't know if I actually unlocked this one. I wonder what this is. Tifa's secret savings. 1 gil came out of the keyboard. Oh, that's all we got. But I think I didn't jam on it on the flashback is what happened. You know. I think that's what happened. Yeah, I didn't get it. Oh well. Oh well. I think I didn't do the right thing earlier in the game. What do you think of Final Fantasy VII so far? I've played it before. Several times. It's okay. It's an okay game. It's not my favorite Final Fantasy game. Speaking of garbage, someone last week threw away 6 pallets worth of sealed magic cards, including some of the $1,000 for 4 packs. Why would they do that? Because they couldn't get rid of them or what? That's a little weird. That's a little weird. Yeah, what's the story there? Why would they throw all that away? Yeah, I think we can do this one here. Lunar Harp is somewhere on the ground here. We could excavate it for you if you want us to. Start digging. Good treasure. All right, let's see here. Let's see. I don't know, like, the ideal way, like, places to put these people. So I'm gonna maybe put one over here. Just use a lot of gold here. So we run out of guys. All right. Each staff member will calculate the tremors and face the buried item. In other words, okay. All right. I love the way that skull looks with like the smoke coming out of the eyes. I'm still waiting for a good explanation for the sealed magic stuff thrown away, but I think a landlord evicted a game store and had their storage stuff thrown out while evicting. Well, that would be pretty crazy. Nothing in here. All right, we'll try again. Good treasure. Good treasure. Yeah, I remember there was an estate sale at my old house down the street. A guy died, and they had a giant sale and like sold his record collection. I went and bought a bunch of his. He had a bunch of old like Sinatra records and stuff from the 40s and 50s, and like anything that wasn't sold, they threw in the garbage, even if they were asking $300 for it, including like some nice speakers and all kinds of stuff. It was really bizarre. All right. Let's see what we get. Mega Elixir, that was okay. Do you enjoy any Western RPGs? Hell yeah. First of all, Western, there was no this division didn't exist in the 90s. It was all just RPGs, right? Final Fantasy was just an RPG. So this is a division that happened in the 2000s because Western games journalists didn't like Japanese games for some reason. I think because they were games and they wanted movies. I don't know why. You know. But it's kind of funny, like looking back on the mid-aughts, like most of the best games were Japanese, you know. and nowadays most of the best games are still Japanese. Anyway. Yeah, so Dragon Age Origins is probably like a top 5 game for me. So that's a good one. Obviously, I've played Morrowind many times on stream. And, you know, I liked the Baldur's Gates games. I liked all that stuff. You never know what people have. I'm cleaning out my mom's garage for her and found a bunch of old books. Turns out they were first edition Charles Dickens. Wow. Key to Sector 5. There we go. All right. Now we can go back to Midgar. I think. I think when you try to go before this, it's like, nah. You can see that like the meteor is darkening the sky because it's going to hit Midgar. Land over here, I think. What I find unrealistic about Midgar is that it's this double level city, but there's all kinds of empty space around it. This doesn't make a lot of sense to me. That's funny. Did I drop the key to this gate somewhere? Was it when I was on that excavation tour? There we go. Now we can go back into the slums. How cool is that? All right. I don't remember if we have to fight anyone in here or not. You're pretty. Hey, where's the flower lady? She's dead. She died. And she's gone forever. We couldn't use a phoenix down on her. It didn't work. He's like, this is clearly a church, but a church to what? It's got like a little menorah thing on top. I'm not sure what it is. Flower lady had complications in surgery. I think we need Sid. According to this little thing I looked up. It still has all the materia. P plus. Let's get the materia off of Barrett, I think. Tifa back in here. Tifa, come back. Is it a horned demon raising his hand, perhaps? Oh, that's a good one. Poor flower lady. I'll do ice. And we can do whatever. Cover and have a counterattack in here. I'm gonna just counterattack. Someone has it. Ah, shoot. I'm just counterattack. Someone's got to have it on them. Ah, she does. All right. So I did that whole thing at her. Pull this on. I don't know if we have to do any fighting in here, but might as well have some materia. Cover, we want counter attack. And then we can do elemental and earth, I don't know. Whatever. We want all and restore all and something else like full cure. Have to level up full cure. Fire and added effect. elemental. Elemental earth. Yeah. Exit Ultima time. Do all, and what do we have here? I have something here. Gravity. Let me try that. Gyata. Doesn't matter. I never use summons. They're always like cost a bunch and don't do that much. You know? Kind of unfortunate. But that's how it is. Yeah, I like KOTOR. I mean, most of my RPGs I like are probably, quote, Western RPGs. But my point is they're not, like, really all that different from regular RPGs. I made this... I mean, people didn't catch this on Twitter, but Mass Effect is a JRPG. Right? In the way that they define JRPG. Where it's like, oh, you know, it's just like a linear story or whatever, right? It's like, that's Mass Effect. You know, Mass Effect is a JRPG. You know, none of your decisions actually make a difference in Mass Effect. That's why people didn't like Mass Effect 3, is they figured out that their decisions were meaningless. But they were meaningless in the first game, too. It was what I call BioWare's illusion of choice. There's not any real choice in the game. Whether you save the Arachnite Queen or kill her doesn't change the outcome of the story at all. It's just a way for you to roleplay. And then you unlock like a little cutscene like later. That's it. You can go see this guy. Oh, he's gone. I think you can finally walk past him. He's gone, wherever he is. Even before I was introduced to D&D, games where you play a pre-made character seemed to break the convention of RPG for me. It felt like a tactic dungeon crawler. Well, I mean, that's just what it was. You're playing the role of that character rather than, I don't know, the role of the character you make up. And this is because D&D is not about the story. This is another thing. It's like, people got confused about what a Western RPG was, too. A regular, I mean, D&D was very influenced. It was very influential on Final Fantasy and Dragon Warrior. It was. I think this is not where I need to be. Like, all of the systems are there. It's just... And in the first Final Fantasy game, you're not playing the role of a specific character. You are making the characters. You pick your party. You know? It's not like... You're not playing Cloud in Final Fantasy 1. You're playing whatever you name. Warrior, Red Mage, whatever party you want. You could do 4 monks. Summons in this game I remember being super cheese strategy. Allowed me to steamroll fights I had no business winning, thus I ended up getting to places without the necessary levels to survive there. Just walking through this one screen took like 30 minutes in the remake. Because you had to move all this stuff around. It was really stupid. Bye, house. Yeah, I mean, what I mean by meaningless is that it doesn't have an effect on the plot. It's there for you to enjoy a little mini story. It's there for the player to just role play for a minute. You know, that's it. It doesn't change the outcome. And then, but honestly, that carries over to the way people do D&D now. People do Dungeons and Dragons where there's a set story. They have a campaign. There's a quest that they have to do. And it's, you know, that's not the way it was with 1.0. You know, with 1.0, it's what it was. Let me see that. should work now. Go on, try and use it now. I like how he kicks it. Sid, what did you do? Don't get mad. We'll just get more wrinkles. Hey, something's coming out. Yeah, like whether you kill Rex or not doesn't matter to the outcomes of the story. Like the same things will always happen. So it's not like D&D where you're going around and really experiencing a completely different story every time. The story's set. That's all. I think this is a premium heart. Looks pretty good. Looks like a pretty good weapon there. This is like the magic shop. Boo. What's he got for sale? Fire, ice, lightning, restore, cover. Oh, the point system in the third game. Yeah, you either destroyed Earth in the fight or you didn't. But I remember that you had to do the multiplayer to like get points, or you couldn't get the correct ending, which I really hated. So old RPGs are nothing like the story-driven games we have now. But in what other genre could you tell me the story of mini games like Final Fantasy VII? In what other genre could you tell the story of mini games? I mean, is the remake an RPG? I mean, RPG now kind of includes the idea of the story, I think. So I don't know. I mean, you can tell a story, you can inject a story into anything. The question is like, what story is actually going to be done well? I don't know. Oh, so you're back. I got something good for you. Why don't you buy it? You probably just found it lying around somewhere, right? I'll admit that I found it, but you may never be able to get another one like it again. How about 129,000 gil for it? Let me see. It's a steel gloves. This is what it is. Should I buy it? What kind of price is that? I don't know how much gil I have. Let me see how much I have. I don't have enough anyway. I don't have enough. You didn't have to do the multiplayer, but you needed to max out the single player points, which require decisions from the first and second game to be made, like if Rex lives or dies. Yeah, I think people didn't like all their decisions being boiled down to like a little point system either. I didn't find the third game particularly good or bad. It just, yeah, I thought the first game was the best. The second game didn't really have much of a story. You know, it just wasn't there much there. You were just doing side quests. It was like side quests the game. It was okay, you know. The gameplay was a major step back in the second game, and the third game kept the exact gameplay from the second game, which was not as good as the first game, so, you know, you can never have it be as good as the first game if your gameplay is not as good. I don't know what's in his bedroom here. Probably nothing. Ray Harryhausen's Jason and the Argonauts. I remember the new Clash of the Titans. Yeah, the gods were real, but they like needed human worship. They had to add some sort of need for the gods. It was kind of weird. So that was one. I had Liam Neeson as Zeus, I think. I thought that was weird. Like everything felt really miscast in that version of the in that version of the story. They had what's his name from Avatar, and he just like looked really dumb with the shaved head. I thought he looked really awful. It's like, come on, grow some hair, dude. This is a story about Greeks. Grow some hair and a beard. Thank you. How many Greeks do you know that don't have good hair? Actually, I know several, but I know several bald Greeks. But no, I mean, come on. These guys are Greeks. Let's have some hair, please. Weird things about that production. Like, it wasn't terribly done. Like, I enjoyed it. I like the original one with Laurence Olivier better. But, you know, it's good. It's not a bad game. It's not a bad movie. Good first game. Second game, it's all side quests. Rush story in the third game to make up for time wasted. Typical. I mean, that's Dragon Age as well. First Dragon Age game was amazing. Second one was all side quests. And, like, the ending would actually come out of nowhere if you weren't doing the side quests for the various characters. You'd be like, why is this happening? Why are these, like, statues coming to life? What's with the church here? You had to do all the you had to do the side quests for, like, the game age guy. Or, like, it wouldn't unlock the right stuff, I guess. So, like, you know, and then Dragon Age Inquisition, just an absolute slog. The most, like, Dragon Age Inquisition is actually the worst of the trilogy. It's really weird that people like that game. The dumb little war table, you know, gating content in a single player game, walking around picking flowers in an open world, like, really silly, just bad design. My God, I can't believe people like that game. Like, and I couldn't even get through the actual story. The story was maybe okay, but you had to do so much garbage to even access the story. It's like, come on. The first game was like a dungeon crawl with constant challenging encounters, especially if you played on Nightmare, and I always play those kinds of games on Nightmare. So let's go to Junon. You know, yeah, the same thing with Mass Effect. Really, I think it's not. I think it's that they do sequels to games. They didn't do sequels to games before, like, Mass Effect, you know? Record stops in Skyrim Alchemist build. Well, and Skyrim has things in it, though. Like, what I mean by that is, like, it was like a little piece of World of Warcraft. Hey, you got to get your herbalism up to make potions. It's like, why is this in? Why do I feel like I'm farming in WoW? And I don't want to have to spend 30 minutes in the morning farming alchemy stuff for my raid. Like, that's dumb in a single player game. I just want to play through the story at my own pace. Hey, thank you, Sound Engraver. I'm doing pretty okay. My hearing's getting slightly better, so I'm going to try to get started on some music this week. Since I have a little break. I'm going to link the Demon Ex Machina again. So if you're not on the mailing list, here's a free copy of the new book. Just for fun. Alright. I don't want this party now. I wish, like, it would automatically unequip all materia. But this is the PS1 version of the game, so I don't know if they put that in later versions. Because I don't really want to use Sid. I want to use Yuffie. So I have arranged. And I like her better than Barrett. I just do. Oh, Tifa, you need some more HP, girl. Alright. Restore and all. We need lightning. Do I have another all? Do lightning, and I thought I had a fourth all. Guess I don't. I thought I did. Maybe someone's still holding on to some materia. All ice. Elemental earth. Okay. All full cure. Well, let's take that off. All. Let's do all something else. Okay, we'll do all gravity. Elemental fire. Really, it's better to do all restore and lightning. All. You can do time. Maybe have her have Ultima. Does she have Comet? She has Comet. Alright, we'll have her have Ultima. Ultima Magic. I wrote a short story, more like a novella with the word count. Awesome. I'll try and get it published this year. Much going on with work and wedding planning. Awesome. For getting married, congratulations. Oh, I've been married. We'll have been married for 9 years this year, which is great. I wish I had married my wife earlier. Unfortunately, life doesn't often work that way. HP plus. There we go. You need that. I don't know. I'm just putting random stuff here. Revive, seal, sense, morph, mystify, transform. Death blow. We'll do death blow. Why not? Sees light on materia right now. Yeah, thank you. Sam Worthington grew his hair out for the sequel, Wrath of the Titans. I thought Wrath of the Titans. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I like longer hair. I didn't see Wrath of the Titans, though. All right. Let's save the game real quick. I got the feeling a lot of bad game mechanics would go away if they really restricted inventory space. Huh, yeah. No bottomless potions, no grabbing every piece of equipment. So many effects to gameplay. Yeah. That's an interesting thought. I think so. I think a limited inventory makes you strategize differently as well. So, World of Warcraft, originally, you had a pretty limited inventory. So before you went onto the world, you had to decide what you were going to take. You could only take so many potions, so many different things. You were limited. You had a person ask you what was wrong with MGTOW. I just smiled. What's wrong with MGTOW? Well, so the big problem with MGTOW I've kind of learned is that it's mostly, I don't want to generalize because there's lots of people, but most of the people who are argumentative are really looking for something to justify the way they already are. If you don't want to get married, you don't have to get married. Hurry up and get in. Right. But just say, I don't think marriage is for me. I'm not interested in being married to somebody. Not everyone needs to be married, right? And no, you don't need to be married to go to heaven either. There were many celibate saints or saints that weren't married. And there were many that were, like St. Constantine. He was married multiple times, actually, I think. Anyway. So they look at a divorce rate, and they're like, 50% of marriages end in divorce. Then they create a probability out of that. There's no probability, right? Because that's like saying, what's my chance I'm going to go to jail if I'm black? Well, it could be 0. If you don't commit crime, you're not going to jail. I mean, you could get, I guess, falsely accused of a crime, but that's a much lower likelihood than what most people go to jail for, which is they break the law. So, yeah, it's up to you what you do. It's up to you how you have a marriage and maintain it. That's what's going to make it succeed or fail, not some statistic about what other people did with their relationships. It's not a random event. You don't wake up one day and divorce just happens to strike you and your happy wife. It doesn't work that way. But they don't get that because they don't understand how statistics work and they don't understand how probability works. But I think they really don't want to. I think most MGTOW guys want to think of statistics as some sort of pseudo dialectical way of arguing for their lifestyle that they already want, which is they're already alone and they don't want to be, they don't want to make the effort to try to find a companion. That's all. It could be they don't understand probability, or they could just really not want to understand it, so that they are justified making their choices. Oh, a little cutscene here. I'm back. Haven't been to jail yet. I'm black. Haven't been to jail yet. Wow, who would have thought? Well, I don't know, man. I heard 1 out of 3 adult black men have done jail time at some point. So your number's coming up, and we'll be here for you when you inevitably go to jail. That's like the MGTOW approach to like divorce is like you're going to get divorced because 50% of people get divorced. It's like it doesn't work that way. You can't convert those sorts of things into probabilities, right? It's not like there's a background probability to divorce. Like there's no Bayesian background probability to divorce. It's based on what you do. So there might be like a background rate of cancer, and smoking may change that, but you're not altering likelihood when you get married or don't get married. You should marry someone that you think you can be married to for a long time, maybe the rest of your life, right? But I mean, come on, it's not a random event. I may be mistaken, but doesn't it feel like we're missing something? Popular phrase is, she's not yours, she's just your turn. Yeah, okay. Whoa, this is cool. I don't know where I am here. We're just exploring. Oh. I'm only MGTOW when my wife has a headache. I went my own way into marriage. All right, let's see how hard you trained. Attention, charge! Hey, that's the underwater reactor. Come back. Us warlocks had to stick soul shards in there too. Oh yeah, for WoW inventory. You had to have your reagents, like your soul shards, your food. Like as a hunter, I had to have a quiver full of arrows and food for my pet. Or I couldn't go out and farm. If your pet got unhappy, he would abandon you and you'd have to go train a new pet. How about whoever stays alive gets to take her out? All right, you're on. But what if both of us... Whoa, don't even talk about that. There we go. Oh, great. There went 2 perfectly good men. Thank you. Thank you, ma'am. Okay, back to work. Back to work. Yawn, I'm sleepy. For Junon. Imagine someone coming at you with a machine gun and you just hit him with a baseball bat with nails in it. Are you familiar with the concept of synchronicity? If so, what are your thoughts on it? I don't know what you mean by synchronicity. Do you mean syncretism? I'm not sure what synchronicity means. Syncretism is the idea that different cultures are expressing beliefs in the same gods. That, like, Thor and Zeus are like the same god. That's synchronicity. Or syncretism, I should say. That's syncretism. Syncretism is something that a lot of modern anthropologists... I'll talk about syncretism because I don't know what you mean. A lot of modern anthropologists talk about syncretism. And it's actually really inappropriate because it devalues those cultures, and it tries to pretend that, like, ideas of gods are spread like memes, and that they're not part of that culture and a unique being for that culture and that religion. Leave at once. Let's try ice. There we go. That's cool. So, like, I'll talk about syncretism some more, I guess, because I think it's an interesting topic. You can look up, like, things on Egyptian gods, and then you'll find people trying to argue that the Virgin Mary is some cult created out of the ruins of the cult of Isis, which is completely preposterous. They don't function the same. They don't look the same. They're not the same at all. They're completely unrelated. But because there were Christians in Egypt and the cult of Isis was from Egypt, then they think, well, maybe this cult of Mary was really the cult of Isis, and that's where all of the veneration of the Virgin Mary comes from. But like I said, that's nonsense. It's like imagining that both Isis and Mary are the same beings, that there's some idea that people get attached to and then they just rename it and fit it into a different religion. Which the Romans actively did. Like, they would actively say, okay, your goddess of fertility, Isis is the same as Venus. They'd say things like that. The Romans were many times very synchronistic. Lots of people did that back then. Alexander in Egypt is another example. Yes. So it's something that's particularly Roman, but other cultures don't necessarily view it that way, right? They wouldn't go like, no, our god is not Jupiter. Sorry. Jupiter is some other foreign god. But it was a way for Romans to engage and bring all the religions of the empire into their religion, so that they were the most pious people, that they have all the gods on their side. There was a purpose to it, and they believed in the gods. Synchronicity is a term for a statistically unlikely number of coincidences that aren't real coincidences. Signs from God cause the universe being a simulation, etc. I haven't looked deep into that. But syncretism is really interesting. Now, the thing is about pagan thought is that because most modern people are looking through things through a Christian lens and aren't aware of it, they're thinking in terms of a monotheistic singular religion, i.e. the Catholic Church or the Orthodox Church, where, like, everybody worships the same God in the same way and has the same theological beliefs throughout the entire empire. They have this idea, and so they try to apply that to paganism. And paganism was not like that. Paganism was diverse. So, yes, there was Jupiter Optimus Maximus, and he had a temple in Rome, but he may not be the same Jupiter as the Jupiter you have sitting on your shelf at home in your little alcove, in your little shrine at home. You may view that Jupiter as a special Jupiter for your family. Now, it may be the same Jupiter or different aspects of the same Jupiter, but pagans could hold all of these double thinking things within their head at once. So they didn't engage in this theological thought that is inherently Christian, where we define God in strict terms and we define the religion in strict terms, because that's the way the church works. So they're applying a church mentality to something that was not a church, which was the pagan, the pagan beliefs. So syncretism has elements of that, where it's like, oh, you're just worshiping Jupiter in a different way, or Jupiter's the same, or here's a new god that is Jupiter and that god, and we'll make sure we cover all the sacrifices to all the gods, so all the gods will like us. Very important religious stuff. I get that women can be hard to understand. I think feminism has sullied our perspective of how many good women are out there. If you're a good man, you'll find a good woman. Yeah, if you want to take something from MGTOW, it's like focus on being good and pursuing your interests and maximizing yourself, and that will make you attractive to the right woman. The other thing men have about women is that they get told that in order to attract women, they need to do certain things, and they do those things, and they attract certain kinds of women. And the good women are not hanging out at the club at 2 a.m. They maybe go there once a year with their friends for like a girls' night out, and they don't really take it that seriously. You can read Roosh V's blog. He has a lot of stuff on this because he was a pickup artist and therefore has experienced a lot of that stuff. Shouldn't everything be Christianized that doesn't violate the tenets of Christianity? That's a good question. I don't think I'm qualified to answer it. The Catholic Church, and this is true in Orthodoxy as well, is that different cultures will express their belief in different ways, maybe using different aesthetics. Like the Ethiopian church, you'll see icons of Jesus being black. That doesn't mean they're worshiping the wrong Jesus, because they're not portraying him as an East Mediterranean man. Because his icon doesn't look like the one in Constantinople doesn't mean they're not worshiping Jesus. Rather, that's their expression of who Jesus was, is he's a human that looks like them, because they're humans. That's just a portrayal of his humanity. Extending beyond that, though, I can't really say. There's a big controversy over these so-called Pachamama statues, which I'm not going to get into, but wow, that was cool. But it's controversial. Some things shouldn't be Christianized because they're obviously against that. What should be Christianized? What if should fishing be Christianized, or is that something separate from the church? I don't know. Like I'll have like an answer for that. These submarines look cool. Synchronicity has been on my mind a lot lately because I'm a lightning rod for it. I've been experiencing ridiculous amounts of hyper-specific coincidences. Maybe they're not coincidences. Yeah. Take them seriously. Rocket punch. Ouch. There we go. I like this music, the return of this music. All of these sets are so well, drawn. David said, dudes just want justification for their lifestyle and beliefs. You find that all over the RP community. Do Bolt. See what Bolt does. An example would be Christmas on the 25th of December. It's criticized for being pagan, but the pagans do not own the days of the year. Exactly. Well, and I made the, actually, I've made this point about like pagan Christmas before. Is like, you know, a large portion of Christmas has nothing to do with Christ, right? Like our Christmas celebration. It's one of the things I don't like about Christmas. Is like this emphasis on like Christmas trees and presents. This is not technically Christmas. But that doesn't mean that you're worshiping the old gods by giving presents or something. If it's a Saturnalia tradition, who cares? Nobody worships Saturn. So it doesn't, like, you're not dedicating that to some pagan god, right? Like, having a Yule log doesn't mean you're worshiping Odin for Christmas. So that's what people wanted. They're like, it's pagan. It's like, so what? Who cares? Right? It's just a tradition. It's a tradition of the folk. And pagan actually means like hillbilly. So it's just a folk tradition. That's all it is. It's not a worshipful act for a god. So it doesn't really matter. I dislike that there's an emphasis on those for Christmas, for example, rather than, you know, the incarnation of our Lord. But that's just how it is. It's not that Christmas trees are pagan. Yeah, they clearly are like Yggdrasil or something, maybe originally, but nobody puts up a Christmas tree going like, you know, I think this represents the world tree, and Ratatask, the squirrel, running between Needhogg the serpent and the eagle at the top, giving him messages and taunting him. No, they don't think any of that. None of that goes through anyone's mind, except mine, because I know mythology, I guess. You are not getting this huge materia. I got a huge materia for you. The really dumb one was when they said like Easter is an equinox celebration. It's like Easter is tied to the Passover feast, which has never changed. Because Passover is still a Christian holiday. The Last Supper was a Passover. All of this stuff has such deep meaning that people tend to miss, I think. So, you know, the Last Supper was a Passover meal because the angel of death will pass you over if you eat the body and blood of Christ. If Christ is your savior, you won't die, just as he said, right? So, like, the significance of the Last Supper as the Passover meal is really important. So, Easter, of course, is tied to Passover, which is a movable feast. It has something to do with the seasons, right? So you were after the huge materia, but it's not pagan because other pagans happen to celebrate the equinox. You know, it's like saying, I don't know. It's like because somebody else had a similar belief, it's therefore that belief. What does Brandon Curry say? Just not sure how to bring this up to my wife because she's such a staunch Southern Baptist. I've recently been looking at the Orthodox Church more because of some issues that you have mentioned with modern Protestantism. Well, I mean, it's a tough one, you know, because the thing is like to convert away from Protestantism is to admit that Protestantism is wrong on some level. And if you really hold that like you've done the right thing your whole life too, it takes a lot of, there's a lot of emotions attached to, was I doing this wrong? Were my parents wrong? You know, are my sisters doing this wrong? And, you know, I think Protestants have because they have a pretty legalistic view of faith, believe it or not. They say they don't, but this is an example of how it is. It's like they get upset that Orthodox light candles or Catholics light candles or pray for the intercession of saints. And then they hate that, right? Because they've been told to hate those practices. So they're thinking very legalistically, you know, about what you should and shouldn't do. So it's really hard to get past that block. And I know it is. Where are we? Magic. Easter's a really weird one because it's only ever called Easter instead of Passover in English and German. Yeah, that's interesting. Maybe the name Easter was taken from some local thing in English. I actually don't know the history there. I have to look it up. I've heard a theory that some seemingly meaningless synchronicities are hints from God to be looking for a meaningful sign soon. Maybe. I mean, you should always be attentive to what you want, but there's many ways that you should allow God to guide you, in my opinion. Not just looking for coincidences. You're not supposed to be engaging in auspices, for example. Auspices would be like going out and looking for birds for a sign. You know what I mean? So it's hard to say. I can't tell you. Like I can't tell you one way or the other. Cloud. The huge materia. There it is. A huge materia of flames. Hey, a crane game. A claw machine game. Oh, cool. You're going to take it on that submarine. Did we make it? Yeah, I think where I dislike, I'm with you, BioBomber, where I think I dislike the overemphasis on those folk traditions. Like, there's nothing wrong with giving presents. Like, giving presents is fine. Is that becomes the focus, and when your emphasis is wrong, you end up doing the holiday wrong. Like, you end up thinking of the wrong things. And you should be thinking about the real meaning of Christmas. The true meaning of Christmas. What are you doing? Help load. Cloud? Looks like we barely made it. I'm sure you want me to do manual labor? What's up, C-Dub? Hope you're having a good one. Thanks for stopping by. Either give it to us or else. Which is it going to be? Unfortunately, I don't have time to deal with you. Oh no, a robot! Cool looking robot. My priority is the huge materia. Boss fight. Easter's named after the English goddess Eostre. I don't know anything about her, so I doubt anybody thinks about that though. Let's see if Quake does anything. Magic. Bolt 3. Let's hit him. Oh, there's like multiple arms to hit there. Okay, that's cool. Let's do regen. Hit everybody up with regen. There we go. We have an enemy skill. No, magic. Bolt 3. Just hit him with that every time. Big guard, might as well. Try ice. Bolt 3. Church will always be there, but family won't. Kind of settled on my parents not getting anything after hearing that. And I think I need more context. Ah, didn't get the good one. Interesting thing about Protestants going back to Catholicism is that it seems like they are going back to a Catholic Church that is significantly different than 200 years ago. I guess that's true. I don't know how true that is, though. I mean, the format of the Mass is a little different, yeah. I'd probably ask someone or think about that with someone who's like an expert on that. No, I grabbed her. I don't have anyone to summon. Yeah, if he has red letters. No. Okay. I'm not sure what to do. Let's attack his main thing. Well, she's not hitting hard at all. Hitting for nothing. Lapis Laser. Well, that was pretty good. Meteor Rain. I need more healing. Pretty rad. Broke one of his arms. Alright, we got Yuffie back. No, she's dead. Only Cloud is alive. Shoot! I didn't heal up enough. Alright. Item. Let's, we gotta raise somebody here. Let's raise here. And then Phoenix down. Heal up! Mostly on why going to church on Christmas wasn't important. It's just wrong in general. I like how I lost my limit break. Because I died. Bolt 3. How much is this going to heal us? Let's find out. We'll do Clear Tranquil. Heal everybody up to max. Yeah, all the denominations are very different. You know, I grew up in a Mennonite church, but it'd be just profoundly different from how that church looked 200 years ago, for sure. And most of the people, even the heads of the church, would probably not agree with the theological positions of the church from 200 years ago, which is really crazy. That was something that struck me was most Protestantism, most evangelical Protestantism kind of ends up in this mainstream set of beliefs that the denominations all kind of squish together, and you can go to like 4 different churches and they're all more or less Baptist in their practice and their thoughts and their teaching, which most Protestants I've met are very okay with. They're very pluralistic, but only to a point. That point is usually Catholicism. So it's like everybody's in the Christian club, and then they'll say Catholics aren't Christian, which is really weird. Damn, the submarine. The huge materia. We have to go after it. chase him. Hold on. God's hand is not as good as the premium heart. Alright, there's some items here. Don't want to miss the little chests here. These guys are scrambling on. I'm curious about your thoughts as a musician. One of my favorites, Cell Dweller, releases his albums as EPs and or singles as full release. Good idea, bad, or whatever. I release mine as singles, and then I put them together for an album. So I think it's a good idea to do that. I think people will not wait around for your album to be released unless you're in very specific genres like jazz or metal. And even then, it's probably better to just release a bunch of singles and then collect them into an album later on and let people buy an entire album if they want. You know, I think I've seen a couple of knowledgeable people basically say that's the best way to do it, because you will cultivate your fan base better that way. Scimitar. Is that her weapon? Nope. Alright, never mind. What are your thoughts on stories fitting pagan gods into Abrahamic worldview, like when Jack Kirby's Thor said the Norse gods weren't to be worshipped and there was one true deity? I don't know. I mean, that's Jack Kirby, because like he wanted the Norse gods as superheroes, not as gods. Leviathan scales. There we go. I mean, I think it's okay to do that. It's a fantasy novel. I mean, it's a fantasy comic. You're not taking over the ship. Also, I don't like the view Abrahamic. That's a weird one. Should have saved the limit break. I mean, Star Trek did it too. They had that episode where they met Apollo, and Apollo was really like an alien, you know? And he wanted people to worship him. And like, we don't need gods. We're fine with the one. You wouldn't say that in modern TV, but they did it back in the 60s. You want the sub? Just try and take it. Sir, maybe we shouldn't piss them off. Speaking from experience releasing music, the attention stays on you if you're releasing singles or EPs. That said, my full albums get the most music streams. Yeah, people like to have a collection, but you know, you want people that are interacting with your music to have like a stream of things that they can do, you know, they can listen to. Abrahamic is only slightly less silly than Judeo-Christian, and it's just as inaccurate. I think so. Oh, I don't have anything slotted into this? Oh, no, I do. I do. I think, let's look at this God's Hand. It's because this has a super high attack percentage. I think we can do something crazy with this. Oh, gravity. Do I have... Instead of Comet, let's do Death Blow. Death Blow. Let's do Fire All. There we go. So I think you could just spam Death Blow with this and it always hits. Let's put something else in there. Steel, I guess. The Avengers, Black Widow referred to Thor and Loki as gods, and Captain America replied, "There's only one god, ma'am, and I'm pretty sure he doesn't dress like that." I think that was kind of done humorously because he's from the 40s. I could be wrong, though. I don't remember that, though. That's funny. But anyway, Star Trek wouldn't have done that in the 90s. They wouldn't have been like, oh, we only need one god. They would have been like, we don't need gods. It was a lot more atheistic by the 1990s. Which is, I don't know, it's what it was. Tint. There we go. Save. Yeah, I've had a couple producers say, like, doing singles and then putting those together to an album is probably the better way. No, this is terrible. We don't have much time left. I don't want to die. There's still so much I've got to do. Never even got to do my special victory dance at battle. All right, then. Then make this your first victory. Go on, show them. Yes, sir. Remember your last training. Begin. Yes, sir. I remember Cloud taught him to do that. That's so cute. Take them prisoner. I don't want to kill them. Someone please. I'm sorry. I can't take it anymore. The lack of space, the shaking, the roar of the engine. What are we gonna do? We stole a submarine but can't pilot it. Hey, it's moving. No regrets. Oh man, this sucks. Cloud, do something. Hey, you're right. I do feel a little better driving. No sweat. Just leave everything to me. Thank you. I'm happy to be a hostage. Hey, who? What do you know? Read the manual. Submarine Operation Manual. Beginner's Edition. Button placements. Up, descend, left, right, down. All right. A Red Leader submarine carrying huge materia is being escorted by covert Shinra submarine units. Furthermore, it has been confirmed that several mines have been dispersed onto the ocean floor. The ocean floor can only be monitored with Shinra's sonar radar screen. Enemy subs can only be detected within the sonar area. Get in front of the detected enemy sub and lock on. Push the square button to fire a torpedo. The mines are found on the radar screen at the top of the indicators. The mines inflict great damage, so be careful. Objective, sink the Red Leader submarine carrying the huge materia. Time limit, 10 minutes. Advice, get the enemy submarine in front of you. Concentrate attack on the red leader submarine. If you lose track of the enemy, press the R1 button and use your radar. I'm gonna sit in the seat. I think we have to chase a submarine. Start the mission. Have you seen the movie In the Name of the Rose with Sean Connery? Yes. But it's been a long time. I think I saw it a long time ago. So I don't really remember it. Did you try Forspoken? No. No, I saw the dialogue and the gameplay. I was like, I don't want to play it. This switch? Main screen on. Change the screen mode. I'm trying to... There it is. That work? No. Trying to... Now I'm ahead of it. And he's torpedoing... You know, he's torpedoing me! Mission complete. Man, that looked so cool for such a short, like, little mini game. Didn't that look cool? It's funny how it looks worse than Final Fantasy 15 despite being from the same studio. It's from a separate studio that is a subsidiary of Square Enix. And Square Enix is actually ending the studio, quote, merging it. What they're doing is they're taking all the devs and splitting them up into other studios. Receive Shinra sub. Woo, we did it. The huge materia should be at the bottom of the sea by now. Let's continue the search. All Shinra submarine units, do you read? All Shinra submarine units, do you read? Must be from Shinra. Report number 2. Number 2. I saw that written at the dock. They must mean this sub. All right, I'll do it. This is Shinra number 2. Everything's normal. Roger. Your next mission is return to Junon dock. We will transport the huge materia from the airport. Those without other assignments will report for guard duty. That is all. Over and out. Junon Airport. We should make it if we hurry. Forget about the huge materia for now. We're climbing. Climbing. Ugh, my ears. Let me out. I hate this. Oh, they did Final Fantasy 15 as well? I'm not a big fan of Final Fantasy 15, but you're right. It did look worse. But they're ending that studio, I thought. Okay. All right, I'm going to save the game because I am actually out of time for the day. So I'm going to save it. And I'll see you guys next week. I'm going to try to do more stuff during the week, get a couple videos out. I've been trying to get this book published and out. You can pre-order it if you want it, but I'm going to give you the free link first. So, here's the link to get the book for free. And if you want to, you can pre-order it. So you can pre-order it if you want it. I'd always appreciate orders or reviews. Both are good. So if you read it and you like it, you can go ahead and drop a review on it too. I think reviews are open. Yeah, you can write a review if you liked it. Drop a review. That would really help me. I see a couple hundred people have grabbed the free version, so check it out. And I will see you guys next time. Let's turn off the PlayStation Vita. And that's that. It's a 2-hour book. It's a quick read in the style kind of aping the style of H.P. Lovecraft more than like the ideas that are behind it. So check it out, and hopefully you'll like it. I've been watching football games from the 90s while I work on logos for my football RPG, and I never knew commercials would be so nostalgic. Yeah, I mean, it's different because advertising, the internet changed advertising. This will be the last thing I say before I go. The internet changed advertising, so everything became about targeted advertising. So commercials were more appropriate, honestly, now because they target the individual. Like, here's a thing that you probably want based on our knowledge of you. You're like, oh, I do want that thing. Versus you had to have a commercial that would get enough people's attention that they might mention the product to someone who wanted to buy it even. That people had to be entertained by commercials. You had to get to the point quickly because it was like money on the line. You had to sell the item very quickly, and your ability to market to different groups was a lot more limited. You didn't know exactly what demographics are going to be watching that football game. You could guess there'd be a lot of adults and maybe not as many kids, but you didn't know that much more about them than that. So you really had to think broadly. So commercials were a much more universal experience in that sense back in the 90s. Very different experience than they are today. I remember seeing a series of books on Amazon in which the Norse gods were portrayed as Nephilim. That's an interesting idea. You know, fallen angels. I think those are interesting ideas as well. So it'd be an interesting take to look at it that way. Now, I will say, just more in lines of what you're talking about, Hardwick, if you read a lot of writings by saints, they will mention that demons, basically demons would deceive the Greeks. This is Athanasius, right? You can find some of this in the Life of Saint Anthony. That because the demons weren't restricted by physical bodies, they could predict natural disasters like a little bit ahead of time and stuff. So they could deceive the Greeks. They could make the Greeks think that they were gods. So that is something that you'll have people mention from time to time. I'm not going to say yay or nay on that, but like, there's a belief. There were beliefs, and those continued, that the gods were really, principalities and powers, fallen angels, some other power that is not God, that deceives people in some ways, right? So anyway, have a good one, and I'll see you guys next time.